Morning folks, I hope you're doing okay and coping with the cold temperatures that we've been experiencing recently. Today it is probably -1 looking outside. It is 9:30 in the morning. I am wrapped up and I'm going to try and change the fuel pressure rail with all the injectors, and I'll show you a few hints and tips along the way. Just generally, you won't need to replace your injectors unless you feel that an injector is leaking, or there is something on the fuel trims that is given cause and concern, or a spark plug is completely different in terms of its colour. That could indicate a leaking fuel injector. I'm going to see whether the 90,000 mile fuel injectors that are the originals, I've never changed them. They are what was on the car originally. I'm just going to take them off, put some second-hand ones on that have come off a slightly higher mileage car, but not too much higher mileage, untested. So we're going to see what the consequences are and see how it runs, and hopefully take it on a drive, and we'll see how it goes. Right, that is out. That's connected. Oh, it's freezing. Right. Excellent. As part of this video, we are going to do a an ECU reset. And you do that by disconnecting the negative terminal and leaving it off for at least half an hour, which is great because this job will probably take that. Right, that is no longer touching the terminal. Okay, we don't want it sparking when we do this job. Well, out the way, because that unless you take the battery out, hit the terminal. I can't be bothered to take the battery out. Right, the first job is just to get this breather straight out the way. I don't want it anywhere near, so we'll just take it away like we did before. Hook it over there somewhere out the way. Now, I cleaned this rail up, so I'm a bit disappointed that I'm going to have to replace it with this mudging. It's not as clean, but it's all right. It will do. And there's the four second-hand injectors with good seals on them. Check that the seals are not nipped in any way. Okay, that's really important. But I did give it a bit of a wet sand, which is why that is much more shinier. Just literally a 1500 grit. You see, look at that. Look at that. Then look at that. You see what I mean? Just give it a 1500 grit and it will come up. I couldn't be bothered to clean this because I suspect that this may not make a difference, but if it does, I'll be swapping these injectors onto that rail, or I'll just clean this up. We'll see. Now, first thing I want to do is just disconnect everything on this side. So, fuel pressure regulator. It doesn't want to come up today. Everything is really cold, really cold and brittle. Be careful of this pipe because these can be known to snap. This pipe and this pipe are known to go brittle, believe you me. Now, remember this clip. So what we've got to do is we've got to get a pick in there, separate the two halves, and then push both sides out this way, like we did in the fuel pressure regulator video. You need to watch that video because that's could also be a problem that people could face. And then literally this side is exactly the same. This is the from the tank. Okay, it goes through that line from the tank and through here. However, it doesn't have one. There's a little valve that sits on the earlier models. I don't know what that's for, but you can see clearly here exactly how the clip goes together. So you basically get a pick, separate the two halves, and then push through. And I'm going to do that now. Done. You see that? It's just come away in two halves. Now all you got to do is push through the two pieces and it will come out. Or alternatively, if you don't want to take that return line out, You could just take the valve out with the return line attached. You can do it either way really, because that return line doesn't really need to be detached unless you want to, as long as you can get the fuel out of that rail for when you take off the feed pipe, okay, so it doesn't go in your alternator. So as before, you take out the two 8mm bolts holding the regulator on. In this case, I'm not going to take this hose off because I'm taking the regulator out of the rail, because this regulator is going to be swapped onto the second-hand rail, and we'll see what happens. Oh, God. Just gave in just a bit of fuel that's come out. Ooh. Ow. It's the only thing with petrol at this temperature. Absolutely stings. This is the sort of job where I can't wear big thick gloves because I'm going to have to show you some precision stuff, and this was not kind of precision, but you don't really want to be wearing thick gloves. Right, we'll leave that there. We do not need to take that pipe off, actually. Something that I've learned from doing this job. Right, I don't know why it's actually done that. It's actually hooked itself back together again. The way I found to do is basically you push that side in and then push that side in at the same time, and again the clip has gone out. There you go. Now that pipe is ready to pull. This might be a bit tight. Just make sure, because this fitting at the end is plastic, just make sure that it has come out. See, that has actually not come out all the way. Yeah, you see there's that little bit of movement in the clip. Anyway, try and pull that out. There we go. Done. Oh, there's a bit of fuel, just excess fuel from the pipe. I won't worry too much, just leave that now out the way. Okay, a bit of petrol, but I'll clean that up. I don't think E10 would affect that anyway. It's quite thick plastic, but still, when you're pulling that off, it could snap. Particularly on a cold morning like this morning. There are certain plastics that you don't want to be touching, like door handles on a Rover 45. You don't want to touch them on a cold morning like this morning, trust me. They're waiting to break. Now the next thing you've got to do is get this wiring harness off. Now I'm going to show you at the back here. You see down here you've got these clips, 1, 2, 3 and 4. What you have to do is get a flat blade screwdriver, get in there and push the clips in. So if I just show you this one, just push it in like that. This is what attaches this harness block onto the actual injectors. So once you've pushed all 4 clips this way, that should lift up. I know you can't see as well from there, but what you do with these 4 clips, when you're pushing them in, pull it up, because what will happen is you'll push the little tab in, the little metal spring that I've showed you on the clips, and then they'll push back out as soon as you've gone to the next one. So what you do is you push this one in, pull it up a bit, push this in, pull it up, and eventually it will just come up slightly at an angle, and then you'll be ready to pull the whole thing off. I'm just going to show you. So pull, there we go. There we go. See what I mean? It's come up a bit, hasn't it? Can you see that on the camera? I know you're a bit far away, but that's how it is. And then the last one. There we go. There you go. Okay, so now your harness is completely off. I took the opportunity of actually cleaning down here, cleaning all these plugs just a little bit on this side, and cleaning the connectors onto the injectors if you haven't already done so. Now, what this gives you access to are these 2 bolts. You've got 1 bolt here, okay, a 10mm, and then you've got another 10mm just there, and that is just all that holds that rail to the block. The only thing sticking it on will be the O-rings and the injectors, and you can just ease it up. They're not tight, believe me, they're not tight. Take it, there we go, without dropping it. They're quite long, these bolts are, but they're more like self-tappings than anything else. That's it. 2 regulator screws, 2 fuel rail screws. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and hook that out of the way a little bit. Now, this fuel rail has got to come off. I know we've got this wire. This wire goes to the, I believe it goes to the stepper motor. Yes, it does. So we can't really take that off as it is. But what you can do is angle this fuel rail out. So if we just pull it up now, because all it's held on is by the seals, and it might be tough. I'm going to do this off camera, but basically you just tug it gently from side to side to ease off those seals. They can be very tight in there, where you need to be very careful. Oh, that's gone straight. There we go. Well, that was easy. I don't know why it was so easy. Oh, it's gone as well. Maybe it's the cold. Maybe the cold has actually shrank the seals just a little bit, because that's what the cold does. Maybe on a hot day it'd be more difficult. The last time I did a job like this, it was definitely a bit more tighter to get out. Right, it is pretty free, but it's getting caught on this still. Now, I think the last time I did this, and I completely forgot, is I released the wiring by taking this clip out, just here, this clip that holds it to the throttle bracket, and taking the throttle position sensor out, because that's all it is. This is just the throttle position sensor wiring that comes out the end. So literally unclip. So if you unclip the sensor, right, okay, and then take this clip straight out. There we go, done. Okay, and that's completely out, that's free. Now just move that up just a little bit, just move this wiring out the way. Get a bit fiddly, but just move it out the way. Okay, we've got a clear path. Good to know that my paint did work. These brackets can rust really easy, that's why I repainted it ages ago. There we go. Right, now if we just actually move the return rail, because this is going to get in the way as well. Move that out of the way just a little bit. Now we can just hook this straight out this way. What you're going to have to do, you're going to have to go across and then up, and you can just go over this. There's enough slack now for that to pull up and for the rail to come out. Move the wiring up there, out the way, and I believe it just comes out this way. It's a bit fiddly, this job. It will come out eventually. There we go, and just let it leak fuel. Out it comes. Voila. I would seriously use this opportunity now to clean all around here. Okay, clean all around, just make sure nothing goes down the holes. Just clean around the injectors, because this area gets really mucky really quickly. You can't get your hands into there to clean it. It really is simple. I would clean this harness as well. Just clean the connectors, maybe go get some contact spray and spray it into the connectors, because that's also going to be good preventative maintenance. But this just needs a bit of a clean around here, because this is what I do. I just clean as I go along, and this is what you end up with, because you do so many jobs on your car. You end up cleaning that area, you clean that, and then suddenly it's all clean, because you've basically gone around the whole thing. So I'm just going to do some mopping up, and then we're going to put everything back together again. Now, what I will say is, if you had a faulty injector, the easiest way of getting these off is literally these clamps. They slide one way, and all you have to do is press a screwdriver in the middle tab, and it will release from the actual block of the rail itself, and it will slide, and literally the clamp will slide off and the injector will fall off. The other thing is just to inspect all of the seals to make sure they're not chipped or scarred or anything like that. And these look all good to me. As I say, those are the originals. These are the new ones, well, second-hand new ones. and we're going to see exactly what they do. Go in by here and push it all the way through, and there we go. Done. Right, now we just need to make sure the injectors are sitting in their holes. Okay, now this is where it can get a bit fiddly. The injectors do need to sit nice in their holes. Now, the only way of doing this is by applying equal pressure along the rail, and then you'll feel it just pop in. Now, what if one of the ones at the end hasn't quite gone in, you'll know because it will sort of move about a bit. But just make sure that it pops in, and then just check to see they're sitting in. Now, at the moment, they haven't popped in. If you look at them, then they haven't popped in yet. So we're just going to give it a bit of a push, and it should ease in. Now, I don't know if I can get the light down there. Okay. Right, a bit of light pressure and I'll be back with you. Right, 20 seconds later, they've just popped in. Literally, you just got to sort of wiggle it around one end, then keep going, moving along, and just, you'll literally feel it go. It won't make a sound, literally, but you'll feel a movement of very slight proportions. You can see now they're sitting in. That is exactly the way they need to be. And now, put the bolts in. Oh, yep, stopped. Okay, right, so just what you got to do now is feed all this wiring. Just be gentle. And you can actually put that back on now. So if you just push it on, there we are, clip, 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 click. There we go. All four are now on. Now you can just put this back around the throttle cables, put the clip back in, just there. A little bit more force. I'll just plug that in at the bottom. Lovely. Right, just put the throttle cable back in. Okay, next thing, I just gotta hot this back on, put it back underneath, just clip it in there, and then just push it in like we did before. There you go. Put your two bolts back in, and this can go back on. Lovely. And push the tab in. There we go. And then hook it underneath. There you go. Job done. That's on now. Secured in place. Lovely. See how things quickly clip back in? Just put the two bolts back in now. Lovely. Then put your two bolts back in, and then just secure that on the top. Lovely. And then put the breather, hook it back under, put it back in there, then just back in there. Done, done, done. Right, I'm just going to make a final check. I mean, that is nice and tight. Yeah, I can see that's clicked in. That we didn't mess around with, and it's clicked in. That's bolted, that's secured. These are all pushed down, these connectors, the seal, the injectors are in the engine. It's all clamped down. I'm just gonna go just muck around with this wet wipe and just get rid of any excess. I mean, the fuel was actually, any fuel was evaporated by now, and it's looking a lot cleaner in there as well. Now we're just going to hook the battery back on, put the fuse back in, and we're going to start her up. Just put that in. I'm going to need that later. I'm not going to use it now. God, it's freezing. Okay, it's done a reset. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to crank it again. Just let the fuel pump properly pressurise and go.
Okay, so the injectors are all good, they're not leaking, it's running, we're going to let it warm, and then we're going to take it on a drive to the petrol station. There's a lot of condensation today. A lot. Right, now the car is relearning. It's just got to temperature. We are now going to take it for a drive and drive it normally, because the ECU is now going to learn all its parameters of potentially all the things that I've changed recently. So the MAF sensor, the throttle position sensor, the fuel regulator, the fuel injectors. It's going to learn around these parameters, not necessarily the injectors, but it might do, depending on if my originals were in any bad state at all. So let's see where this takes us. Right, we're up to temperature, and the radio is asking for my bank account again. I've got that somewhere. I've definitely got that somewhere, but the screen needs some help. That belt still makes the tiniest bit of noise during this phase, but heated windscreens are amazing. I'll cut back in 30 seconds. And this is, I haven't got the heating on, by the way, and this is without the heating, so you've got a bit that the element doesn't cover on that side, and it's done. Absolutely brilliant. And back screen's on, it's done now. Right, let's go to the petrol station and put some E5 in this, I think, today. Yeah, definitely needs it. Tell you what, we have had so little snow in the Midlands, it's untrue. It's more like frost. We had some light snow a few days ago, but thank God our roads are not salted, because otherwise I'd be hesitating at making this sort of a journey, unless it involved me getting a very, very cold hose at the end of a journey and making my hands basically frostbite. Try and do some overtakes, try and drive up to the speed limit. Make sure that you get the engine working exactly as you would normally drive it. Right, we made it to the petrol station, nice and toasty hot. Remember which side I am using. That is out of use, that is out of use. V-power isn't out of use, which is fantastic, because that's exactly what I want. Right, quite a bit of V-power and some, probably about 5 litres in the jerry can for Beatrix, because I doubt that she's ever run on E10, because she's been off the road 2 years, and well, that was way before E10 came out. So anyway, let's go. Let's get out of it, put the fog lights on, go in this way. I just did a double check of the fuel rail, just to make sure that there are no leaks, and there is absolutely nothing. It's bone dry. The petrol has done a lot of cleaning. Petrol is an amazing cleaner, and it has certainly cleaned around where the injectors go, that's for sure. There was a little bit of grease stuck in onto the actual aluminium cylinder head, but now it's gone. The petrol's literally disintegrated it. They're all good. Everything feels good. And that is what you want. Nice and smooth, particularly in the automatic. No misfiring, no flat spots. Obviously I haven't got it to, I've only not taken it to 40 miles an hour yet. That's going to happen later down the line. We are going to put the scanner on it in a second, but the truth is I'm not expecting much in the way of anything yet, but you never know. Very, very nice take up. Superb. Heater is nice and hot now. As you can see, it is just totally freezing today. I don't think it's going to go above 1 today. And I've got some jobs on Project Beatrix to sort out. I'm going to have to get myself inside, have a cup of tea and get some motivation to go round 2 with that car. I will say there's not really anything that can go wrong with the injection rail. It's just the seals can get nipped if they have been taken out improperly. Not the way I've done it. I've done it the proper way, the way that you have to go to avoid damage. You just have to go gently and evenly, like a lot of things. It may help if you put a bit of silicone spray on the actual seals, so they actually slide and pop in into their holes in the cylinder head more easily. But really, honestly, this is the only reason why you would change the injection rail, to see if you can improve the fuel trims that are a little bit on one side of the, more or less on the rich side of things, not the lean side. The lean side is all about air leaks. The rich side is all about overfueling. As simple as that. And this is definitely something that you can look for. Let me know, people of Birmingham. As you can see, we have some shocking roads in the Midlands. I don't know what it's like in your areas, but Birmingham City Council don't like doing the roads, and this is one of the worst ones ever. Shouldn't have come down here. Just give the suspension a bit of a test in it. It responds really nicely to all the undulations in the roads. It's like a game of dodge the pole. While I'm driving to the next park, which I'm going to stop off at my local park to have a look at the scanner, see what it's doing before we just pop off home. I will say I've had a load of new subscribers off I think the Mark 1 group and the owners group for these cars, and I've had so many positive comments, so please, thank you very much for your really kind words. I'm just someone who's had a car for very, very long, got to know it well, rebuilt a lot of it, and I've done most of the work already, so some of it I'm not really going to be showing to you because I've actually done it, unless I need to go over some things which inevitably may happen with wear. But all I can do is pass on all my experience from what I've done. There is a video coming out next week which will show what I've been doing with this car, probably the last few years in particular, but going over 9 years of ownership and what I've messed about with, because I've messed about with this car a lot. I have notably had some unsubscribers. A couple of days where I just keep an eye on the subscriber numbers. They shot up for a couple of days in a row, probably about 60 people in 2 days. Then suddenly, obviously, it slowed down, it went back to baseline, and I noticed we had some unsubscribers. Now, I suspect that's probably come from people who've subscribed to the channel because they've seen my postings, and then they've realised that I don't really focus too much on modified Focuses. Quite frankly, you're exactly right, because I'm not going to focus on those sort of cars, because quite frankly there are enough things, there is enough modified Focuses around for me to talk about at shows. I'm not really going to focus on them. I'm more keen on the unmolested examples, and that's what this channel is about. The lady wants to get out, so I must move. So yeah, that's what this channel is all about, really. I mean, I love Focus Mark 1s, and you know, I don't pretend to think that modified Mark 1s aren't clever and creative in their own way. It's just no longer my cup of tea, and I think it shows. And I think a lot of people, a few people have unsubscribed. I suspect because of that reason. It won't be because of my content, because quite frankly, where are you going to go for Mark 1 content? There's just nothing out there. There's bits and pieces where people have had a go at rebuilding a Mark 1, but really honestly, it's not really that informative. There is a few channels that have done Mark 1 videos, and I'm sure more will probably crop up, and I'm hoping that a few more people will get behind their smartphone camera, because smartphone cameras are absolutely brilliant, and have a go, because that's what I've done. There's no reason why you can't, so I'm hoping more people do that. Anyway, let's switch off and look at the scanner. Right, so we've got it all going on. Yep, up to temperature. Yep, and oh my goodness me, it's gone up minus 16%. That's even more than it was before. Oh dear. Short-term fuel trim, but I suspect that is part of the relearning, but we're just going to see where that ends up after. Maybe I'm going to give this 2 weeks. We're going to give it 2 weeks of running normally. Okay, I'm going to try and get it at 40 miles an hour. That will happen at some point on my commute. But yeah, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Now that could have reset a load of things that I've messed about with recently, but the fuel trim has gone up to 16%. That is very, very interesting. Might have to put the original rail back in. If that stays the same, the original rail is going back in, and then I'm not sure where I'd go from there, to be honest with you. But it just indicates that maybe the rail has it has made a difference, and possibly the injectors in this one are not as good as the ones that are, well, in my original one. Well, all we can do is we can see where this goes. I'm going to go back home now. I'm just going to keep driving it. It feels absolutely fine to me. The short-term fuel trim is where it needs to be, but as I say, the long-term fuel trim a bit on the high side. I suspect the next thing I'm going to look at is the oxygen sensor to see what that does, but the truth is, the only one I've got to hand is an aftermarket one, and this is a genuine one. So I may just swap it to C, but that might be my next port of call. But we're going to give it a couple of weeks and we're going to see how it is. I really do hope that this video has been helpful. If you have an injector seal that's leaking or similar symptoms to me, and you've got some injectors and you need to swap it onto a new rail, I've shown you how to get the clamps off. It's really easy and simple if you want to swap them over onto a new rail, and to take the rail off and then put it back on again. It's pretty simple. So I will see you very soon, and we will keep an eye on this. Take care.